Hello there, it's the Michigan Football Report from Chat Sports. If you're watching for the first time, I want to tell you a little bit about the channel before we get started. We have new videos every single day in the season from today, Monday, August 29th, through Michigan's last bowl game, national championship game, of course, and beyond. We've got the inside scoop on news and rumors. We try no spin, no BS, and we are the fastest post-game show in all of college football. We'll have a post-game show up within a matter of, it's called 25 minutes or so after every single Michigan game. And as always, it's free. YouTube.com/Michigan TV. It's the Michigan Football Report from Chat Sports. So, I was talking to the new visitor, the new viewer right there before the show intro. But for those of you who watch all of our videos, make it to the end. Did you catch the bloopers from yesterday's show, from Sunday's show? Usually we tape these one shot, right? We're not doing a ton of post-production or editing. And we had a couple of mess-ups, one my part, one from the production staff, and the editing just went haywire, so I'm putting all the blame on them. So it's edited now, but if you caught the blooper reel at the end and maybe the swear word I said, comment it below. Maybe just put blooper and then what I did. I'll give you guys a shout-out or some sort of attribution in a show later this week for those of you who saw. Like the last 4 minutes was like a blooper reel, but I definitely dropped a little Yoder the last few seconds of that show. All right, before we get into the show today, had a little argument here in the state of Texas over the weekend, and I want to hear from you guys because where I grew up in the state of Ohio, where family's from in Michigan and all around most parts of the Midwest, they call it pop. You got a Diet Coke, you got a Pepsi, a Mountain Dew, that is pop. A lot of the country, California, the South, here and there, East Coast, it's called soda. A bunch of weirdos, in my opinion. So, not making any judgment here, but go down in the comment. I'm going to pin this one to the bottom of the video right below this. So let me know. Reply just the word pop or soda when I take a little pulse check from you guys. It is game week, though, for the Michigan Wolverines, and it was an eventful weekend, folks. Jim Harbaugh did his podcast that he kind of appears on weekly during the season with John Jansen on Saturday, and then Michigan put out all across social media. Poor timing. It was literally 5 minutes or so right after we put out our Saturday afternoon video. So some people were like, hey, you're talking about quarterbacks. This is an old video. No, I filmed them both on Saturday morning, of course, so we weren't going to refilm them all over. Harbaugh had a lot of things to talk about. It is game week. On today's show, we are going to talk about the quarterback battle and more, and some major surprises from Jim Harbaugh's depth chart, both on the offensive side, defensive side a little bit, and some key freshmen that you are going to want to keep an eye out for this week against Colorado State, folks. And the line is changing, right? I'm going to have more on this in a rumor show either on Tuesday or Wednesday, but the line has really moved, right? 26 points, 26.5, 27 points. Now it's up to 31 points following Harbaugh's weekend announcements. Over-under is also bumped up by about 4 or 5 points to 61.5. The game is noon Eastern on Saturday. Michigan, Colorado State from the Big House, Michigan Stadium. The biggest quote I took away from this weekend from Jim Harbaugh was this, folks. On fall camp, he says, he started off his podcast, the thing I'm most excited about is the team has been ready to play for about a week now. That is Jim Harbaugh talking about fall camp. Some big-time exciting stuff because a lot of times coaches will say, we're just putting in last-minute preparation here and there going into game week. Jim Harbaugh says they've been ready 2 weeks prior to Michigan's first game, a week from prior to this Saturday. All right, on the show, we're going to talk the big quarterback news. I'm sure it's no surprise, but going to go a little deeper. What Jim Harbaugh actually said and what it means looking at this first game against Colorado State and then Hawaii. Next up after that, we'll talk about other surprises on the depth chart that Jim Harbaugh talked about over the weekend on Saturday. And then he talked about some star freshmen, right? He sprinkled in and out through his podcast interview with John Jansen. I kind of wrote them down. I documented these things and make sure I give that information to you guys if you didn't listen and just give you my take in general on it. But the biggest news of the week, folks, Jim Harbaugh has named starting quarterbacks. Weekend announcement, podcast, social media. Cade McNamara will start the opener this Saturday versus Colorado State. J.J. McCarthy will start versus Hawaii. Now, what Jim Harbaugh did not say is how that kind of goes into the dynamic of starter, then backup, if Cade's going to get the first half, and JJ's getting the second half, and then flip-flop the week, or if there's going to be what we did last year, which was, Cade's got 2 or 3 drives, we're going to toss JJ in there for a drive in the second quarter, see what he does. They didn't really expand on that, nor did Harbaugh expand on whether or not Cade's getting the entire game, and then the backup was like a scrub, or not a scrub necessarily, but like a third stringer, fourth stringer, Davis Warren, etc. They didn't expand on that, so my takeaway is I expect both guys to be in the game on Saturday, both guys to be in the game against Hawaii, but the starter likely will get the first half, I would expect. Maybe the backup in each game will get a snap or a drive or two in the first half. We'll have to see it, but I want to hear from you guys. A lot of debate out there, lots of haters, a lot of people happy with this. What was your one-word reaction to the two starting quarterback announcement from Jim Harbaugh on Saturday? Let me know down in the comments. My one-word reaction was interesting, right? It's interesting. I don't know if you've ever had a situation where a coach comes out and says, we've got one starter for one game, one for the next in football, college football. So it was interesting for me. Go down, comment below what your one-word reaction was. So Jim Harbaugh dove into what he is looking for out of each quarterback over these first 2 games and potentially beyond. He had an interesting quote on that. We'll tell you here in a second. From the top, what Harbaugh said is, number 1, command of the playbook, right? It's tough to quantify what that one is. That's the one that's maybe a little bit of a, coach's decision here. But can you run all the plays? Do you get in the huddle? Do you flip over your wristband and you know exactly who's doing what, where, and when? I would think Cade McNamara has a little bit of an advantage there. Next up, points per drive. Right? This could be a reason why the line changed a little bit because if they're analyzing these quarterbacks on points per drive, they're trying to score touchdowns, right? They're not trying to score field goals or punt. So potentially Michigan could run up the score a little more on Colorado State, maybe Hawaii after that. Red zone efficiency, 2-minute drive efficiency. Don't know if we'll have a ton of those against Colorado State or Hawaii. And then third down efficiency. Could not have many of those either, right? If Michigan just scoring every time 3, 4, 5 play drives. But that's what Jim Harbaugh will be looking for. That is what we will be looking for going into this game and the game of the week after that against Hawaii. But Harbaugh talked about what led him to this decision in the first place, and it's because the 3 things he was trying to get a gauge on who was the better guy for this team throughout fall camp so far were these 3 items on the screen right there. Who is the better passer? Surprisingly, he said Cade McNamara, right? I'm guessing a little bit that has to do with more accurate, right, and likely less turnovers. I doubt he thinks that Cade McNamara is the guy to, throw the ball 45 times for 400 yards, like maybe some people think J.J. McCarthy could do if he was in an offense that did that. Playmaking. Now, Harbaugh went a little bit deeper. He said playmaking is moving around with your feet, right, running the ball, scrambling, avoiding sacks and going on there, or potentially just getting out of the pocket, making plays with your feet, making plays with your hand, not putting the team in a position where they're going to lose yards and just making plays overall. Clearly, J.J. McCarthy, I think, has proven in his limited times that he is the better guy for that. And then leadership. Surprisingly, he said the leadership was even, the guy he trusts out there, the guy who demands the respect of his teammates. Now, in Harbaugh's press conference today on Monday, he had a very interesting quote. He was asked by media, when are you going to make your final decision on who your starting quarterback is for this season or beyond, even into the next season and beyond? Both these guys, McNamara and McCarthy, have 3 years of eligibility left as things stand right now. Harbaugh said nobody knows how long. You're talking about 2 gritty competitors and fighters in Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. Did it factor in that one will transfer out or no? Or not? No is what he said. So he's not basing this decision on, whether a guy's going to transfer. Obviously, that's maybe the more the McCarthy potential, question or speculation that if he loses the job this year and won't get it, down the line, that J.J. McCarthy would potentially look to transfer. Braylon Edwards the other day said if McCarthy's not the starter by the Iowa game, he's going to transfer mid-season, which I think is actually kind of ludicrous to think about. But that is what Jim Harbaugh said. In a moment, we're going to talk about more major depth chart surprises from that podcast. But before we get into that, I want to make sure you guys know about BetUS. I am up $100 this year so far. I took a flyer, only a couple games on Saturday. I missed betting on the Nebraska game, so put 100 on North Texas versus who they play again? It was UTEP or something like that. It's like a 1.5 point spread. They won by like 30. Big time win for me. I am already up $100 with BetUS, and even up more than that because I got my promo code GOBLUE, no space, 125% deposit bonus. So if you put in 100, you get an extra $125. Put in 2, extra $250, and up from there. You can put into $500, get a 125% deposit bonus. Make sure you use that link, chatsports.com/GoBlue, promo code GoBlue, no spaces. You do that, you've got the 125% deposit bonus. Bet with BetUS, the preferred sportsbook partner of the Michigan Football Report. All right, want to give some shout-outs. We did our Michigan football flash mob a couple days ago. Actually, it was yesterday, Sunday, and I didn't see as much interest in that as I would have expected from you guys. So I'm going to give a few shout-outs. I saw like 7, 8 people in the comments there. So Carl Cordell, and the replies, it should say, to Big Game Boomer. Carl Cordell, Thomas Lindsay, Lakeside Wolverine, King Slayers 187, Hail to the Victors, Greg with 2 G's, or 3 G's, I guess, Greg Taylor, and Anthony Chandler were the ones I saw that gave a Go Blue kind of Sunday afternoon and on. Some of you guys might be doing it right now. Some of you guys might have not seen that show yesterday on Sunday. So if you didn't, I put the link to the Big Game Boomer crazy tweet that we did a Michigan football flash mob. So go click down in the comments description and type Go Blue at a reply to that tweet. So coming up this season, every Tuesday, I'm going to look for something wild and crazy that needs addressed by this audience on the internet. Likely be a tweet from a crazy fan from another fan base, maybe a Michigan football fan who says something wild, and we are just going to show the internet who's boss, and all of us are going to join and reply. Maybe it's Go Blue, maybe it's Michigan, maybe it's dude, you're crazy, etc. So keep an eye out. Every Tuesday, we're going to do Michigan football flash mob. Come prepared to go after people on the internet from here. Around every Tuesday coming up. I guess we'll do that tomorrow in some regard from there. All right, let's keep it rolling, folks. We've got more to talk about here on the show. We just talked about the quarterbacks a little bit. Now, I want to talk about the depth chart surprises that Jim Harbaugh talked about on his show on Saturday. Number one for me, and maybe these are no particular order, just the way we jotted them down, but hasn't been a ton of talk about C.J. Stokes as potentially being a contributor, but we heard about Khalil Mullings. We heard about Alex Orji. We heard about some other players as the running back 3. Michigan wasn't confident in who they had there. But Jim Harbaugh said going into this week 1, C.J. Stokes, true freshman, is the running back 3 for this team. Number 2, Mike Sainrissel's position switch, right? Wide receiver for 3 straight seasons, played defensive back in high school, now making the switch. Played both roles a little bit, but he is a starter heading into this week. Harbaugh says he's one of the 3 starting cornerbacks. I've got him as my starting nickelback heading into Colorado State. And then Khalil Mullings, just mentioned him a little ago. Harbaugh says he's basically a starting linebacker after spending a ton of time as trying to get reps as a running back this spring, see if he can make an impact there. But Khalil Mullings will be a big-time contributor. I don't think he's actually a starter in my book for what we'll see on Saturday at linebacker position. If you are on Twitter and want nonstop Michigan football content all year long, I'm talking about links to the show, analysis and commentary during the games. I put out highlights during games, and we'll put out all kinds of things like who got the most snaps and other little bit of intricacies around the Michigan football program, especially on game day. I'm a nonstop on game day. Make sure you follow me. It's at James Yoder on Twitter. How about the standout freshman that Jim Harbaugh mentioned in his podcast? We mentioned C.J. Stokes. Is he a running back 3? Sure sounds like it from what Jim Harbaugh told us on Saturday. Mason Graham. And I'm going to put out my final 2 deep, maybe even 3 deep in some positions, defensive depth chart here in a couple days. But Mason Graham, true freshman out of California, Harbaugh's got him down as a starter when it comes to the defensive line position. Now, the interior defensive line for this defense, the Mike McDonald one from last year, the one Jesse Minter will run this year, they call the base defense kind of like this. It's 3 big boys in the middle, right? They call them nose tackle, defensive tackle, whatever you want to have call him there. Mozzie Smith is clearly the guy who's always going to be on the field for that. But 3 big boys in the middle, 2 outside guys. Think David Ajabo and Aiden Hutchinson, and then 2 middle linebackers. And then 4 defensive backs. Michigan only ran that like 10-12% of the time last year. So when Jim Harbaugh says that he is a starter, Mason Graham is a starter in the defensive line in our base package, don't expect Mason Graham to be out there on the first snap, second snap, etc. It's only when Michigan runs that 3 big boys, 2 defensive ends, 2 linebackers, and 4 defensive backs, kind of like a 3-4 in some regards. But don't take that for this as an every down player. It's not what Jim Harbaugh meant by that, although he did say the base package, which, in some ways it is. Harbaugh called Will Johnson the 5-star top 15 player cornerback out of the state of Michigan, his top freshman on the team. Listed him as really the 4th cornerback in some regards, but said he will get a ton of playing time coming up this week against Colorado State and beyond. Tight end Colson Loveland, Harbaugh mentioned him in the third or fourth at tight end, but expected to see playing time for him. Remember, this is one of the best tight ends in the country, the player of the year in the state of Idaho last year in any position in high school football. I believe he was a high 3-star, low 4-star recruit, Colson Loveland, and then Derek Moore. Last-minute switch. He was kind of leaning towards Oklahoma and some others. Ended up being part of Michigan's 2022 recruiting class. Harbaugh had to say this about the talented freshman defensive end. He says, when he learns a counter move or two, he's going to be close to unblockable. Kind of more the quote he a little bit said too. He goes, when he gets a motor out there like David Ajabo or Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to be, then continuing on with that. And then he gets a move or two, he is going to be close to unblockable. Exciting stuff. Harbaugh mentioned a bunch of other guys, both on offense and defense. We are going to come out with our full depth chart on offense and defense here in a couple days. And I'll give you my game preview for Colorado State. I expect Michigan to win by 50 points or so, but there'll be some things you will want to watch for heading into that game. So keep an eye out for it. We'll come back with we'll either do offensive depth chart tomorrow on Tuesday, or we will do Michigan football news and rumors. It's kind of depending on what kind of things come across our plate in the next 24 hours. But make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We'll be back on Tuesday. Until then, go Blue.